It's the Terrible at Fishing radio show on Gold Country Radio. Here's your fishing expert and host, Michael Raffino.
Welcome back to Terrible at Fishing, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. It was a warm one. It was beautiful. The parade downtown was really cool. Veterans Park was packed. And I'm sure all the lakes were too. So, July and August, two of my favorite months to go fishing. Now, this year I can't drive, but it doesn't mean my heart's not out on the lake. Now, why is July and August my favorite months of fishing? It's because I'm a bass fisherman, mostly. And the bass are a warm water fish. I know. And in July and August, we got warm water. Lakes are like 75 degrees surface temp. It's awesome. And what happens with warm water fishing? Well, the bass come up and they're feeding on the surface. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to catch a bass really quick. And if you've never caught a largemouth or a smallmouth bass, you're in for a fight. And you're in for a show. That's what's so beautiful about going topwater fishing this time of year. When you go topwater fishing, you get to see the bite from the very beginning, because the bait is on top of the water and the fish breaks surface and grabs that bait. And so you get to see it from the very beginning and the fight in between, and then of course the end when you land the fish. This is probably, ask any fisherman, this is probably the best experience when it comes to fishing, is to see a fight from beginning to end. And topwater fishing, well, topwater fishing is the best. It really is. So we're going to talk about a few different lures to use on the top of the surface of a lake. So, first, we're going to probably talk, we're going to talk about the two hardest lures to use later. So, the first lure is probably the easiest lure because it's very visible to you and to the fish. And it's got the funniest name. And it's called a Whopper Plopper. I know. Whopper Plopper. A Whopper Plopper is a bait that floats on top of the water and has a spinning tail. It's got like a propeller on the back of the tail. And as you pull it, you activate that propeller. The propeller on the back of the bait creates agitation in the water, like a motor on the back of your boat. It'll agitate or cavitate. Cavitation is where the propeller is up at the surface and it's just splashing. And that's what this is doing. The propeller is cavitating or agitating that water and creating a bubbling sensation as you pull it through. Now, the neat thing about this is why it's the easiest for any bait for you to use is because anybody can use it, from a child to an adult. You can toss this out there and it flies through the air. They actually do really, really well to cast. So you can cover a lot more surface with a Whopper Plopper, and then your retrieve speed is activating the propeller. So when that propeller activates, just reel it in at that speed. It's easy. It's basically a lesson on fishing all wrapped up in a lure. And it's called a Whopper Plopper. Do they work? Absolutely they work. Whopper Ploppers are very, very effective baits. Really effective baits. There's different designs of them and stuff like that. But this bait right here, a Whopper Plopper, will guarantee, to be honest, these are fantastic. Now, how's the best way to fish topwater? The bass like shallow water, and they like cover. So, what you want to do, and the great thing too about topwater fishing is that you could toss it right over submerged branches and trees because you're fishing on top of the water. And those bass are going to come out of that cover and hit this. Now, let's say you get a big one and they hit it. What are they going to want to do? They're going to want to dive. Well, this is where the beauty, again, you get to see the bite right at the very beginning. You right when they go up and then they descend, that's when you set the hook. So when they go up and then when they start to descend, set the hook. And then you need to keep your tip up and keep them up on top of the water. This is real important, as you're going to see in lots of other topwater fishing, is that if they go down, and I'll tell you a story. About 2 years ago, I was at Lake of the Woods, and I was using a 7.5-inch wake bait. Yeah, I know, big. That was only 3.5 inches. And so twice this length. And it's a big, giant bait that I make. And big old giant bucket mouth, break surface on it. Had to be at a double digit. And he broke surface, and I was ready. I set that hook really hard on him. Didn't really have to do too hard because I use really sharp hooks. And then he dove down into the tree. I should have controlled it better. So I set the hook perfectly. I was ready, except I didn't keep the fish above the tree. He went down into the tree underneath the water, and he was able to use the branches to dislodge the bait from its mouth. Bass are one of the smartest fish that you will ever fish for. They're just smart. And the big ones, they're big for a reason. We catch and release. You don't keep your bass. It's just, you measure, you weigh it, and you put it back. And take a picture, of course. And that's what you do with bass. It's a sport fish. They taste great, by the way, but if you keep a double-digit bass that you didn't damage on accident, most fishermen won't like you. They just won't. So that's where, you really got to control the fight. And if I still think of that moment, how I could have done it different. What I did do on that 7.5-inch bait is that that week I bought sharper hooks. Now, I was using really good hooks on that bait, but I went sharper and a different design of hook. And then I put in a slightly larger. I think I had a 1/0, and I went, or a 1, and then I went with a 1/0. So I went with a slightly larger hook, different design, Gamakatsu. And so if I catch, it would give me a better chance at landing that fish. And that's the thing. Bass are violent fish. Big giant mouths like this. And they do this. They shake. They shake like a crazy thing. And by shaking, it's creating some momentary slack in your line. That's why you got to keep your tip up and keep it tight. And they're trying to shake that hook out of its lip. This is where, it's just fun is what it is. So this thing is just shaking, big old giant bucket mouth. Little mouths have a harder time removing a hook, all right? Little mouth fish. That's why they're easier to catch, like trout and panfish. But a largemouth, it can have an 8-inch mouth on it, and it's just violently shaking that hook out of its mouth. That's why you really got to plan it right. And practice. But they love shallow and cover. Now, the best way to fish is from a boat or a raft or something like that. Cast towards the shore. Smallmouth bass love to hug shorelines. They love to hug the shorelines. So you're going to be out about 100 feet, and you're just going to cast, or 50 feet or 75 feet or whatever. You're going to cast that lure within a foot of dry dirt. And you're going to pull this lure, from, 3 inches of water, okay, out over that between you and that cast. And what will end up happening at about half distance between you and the shore, a smallmouth will hit this. If you are shooting for largemouth, and smallmouths are better fighters, all right? They're better fighters. They have to be. They got smaller mouths. Largemouths can get bigger, a lot bigger than a smallie. What we call a smallie. A smallie, typically, if you catch two-pounder in that range, that's a great smallmouth. It really is. Biggest one ever caught is 3.5 pounds. That's a big smallie. And I caught it at Lake of the Woods. Lake of the Woods has great bass fishing, really good bass fishing. And what I usually like to use when I catch smallmouths is what's called a wake bait. A wake bait is also a hard bait, but with a you call it a lip that goes straight down. And what that does is it creates exactly what it says, a wake, and a nice V wake. So again, with a Whopper Plopper, activate the propeller. That's your retrieve speed. With a wake bait, create a V on the top of the surface of the water. A V like in a wake. Once that V is created, that's your return speed. That's that's the speed you want to reel it in. And you can pop it a couple little times, try to create some little bit more agitation. But when you retrieve a wake bait, you only want to retrieve it to create that V of a wake. You don't want to retrieve it any faster. As soon as that V happens, that's your retrieve speed. I've told you time and again that it's not what you throw and where you throw it, it's how you pull it back. Presentation is crucial to catching fish. Understanding your bait and its speed of retrieve to activate its best action is the most important thing when it comes to fishing. It really is. It could be a worm or anything like that. Its presentation is very, very important in the water. Hard baits want to be retrieved at a certain rate of speed. And a wake bait, what you want to do is just create that V. You just create the V. And then pull it across. And use a, very small finesse, 1/4 ounce or lighter bait. And throw it out there. And you're going to throw it towards the shoreline. Smallies love hugging the shoreline. Really like to hug the shoreline. It's amazing. The swimmers at Lake of the Woods, because it's a good swimming lake, they'll be swimming and I'll catch a fish, a smallmouth, 20 feet from them. And, they have designated swim areas that fishermen cannot fish in. But the rest of the lake, I'm sorry. I'm going to throw a bait near you. I'm a very good caster, so you don't have to worry about me catching you. But you'd be surprised what's swimming around your feet. And that's a fish that I want to catch. So stay tuned. We're going to continue talking about very specific ways of topwater fishing. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this message.
The Terrible at Fishing Radio Show. Michael's got the secrets and now you know. Can't lie, you cast just fine. Gold Country Radio.
This is Dave. Dave makes the tastiest burritos in town. But
nobody knows I exist. I'm serving culinary masterpieces to my mom and a raccoon named Dennis.
Then came Jenny.
Dave, have you tried radio?
Radio, isn't that for traffic reports and late-night alien talk?
It's also for thousands of people who don't know you exist.
Huh?
Yet, radio is affordable, reliable, and it works. Not instant burrito fame, but people start showing up kind of results.
So I partnered with Gold Country Radio, and now people know I exist. I've got new customers, catering calls, and Dennis brought a possum. I think they're dating.
I told you. Radio gets your business heard.
Next up, we a second table, maybe indoor seating.
Want to get your business heard? Visit goldcountryradio.org and click Contact to get started. Radio, small budget, big reach, real results.
Out in the backwoods under the stars, I tune in the radio from my old car. Gold Country Radio on Friday night. Terrible at fishing, but it feels just right.
Okay, welcome back to Terrible at Fishing. We're going to continue warm water fishing. And we've already covered a Whopper Plopper, a wake bait, and my favorite smallmouth bait to use is combining kind of both those. And it's called I call it a Whopper Plopper Popper. Okay, we haven't talked about poppers yet. But a popper is a bait with an open mouth. And so when you tug on it, it splashes forward. So it's got an open mouth, and when you tug on it, it splashes forward. And this tiny finesse bait has a propeller on it, and it has holes in the propeller, so it creates more bubbles behind it. And so basically I can use this as a popper, a Whopper Plopper, a wake bait, anything I want. And this tiny little bait gives me 3 different presentations to get to capture a fish. So I could just pull it straight to me, and if indeed that propeller's doing its job, great. I can pop it, creating a forward splash on it, and if that catches me a fish, awesome. And I can swim it basically on top of the water, creating both a wake and a bubble trail on it. A Whopper Plopper Popper. It's fun to say, isn't it? Whopper Plopper, Whopper Popper Plopper. Whopper Plopper Pop. I don't know. Anyway, I like this bait. I never seen one in the stores. I paint these, and I just love them. Now, typically, if I see some children out there, and I've got some extra ones, I'll give them to some kids. And one time at the Aspen ramp, I saw a little boy getting in the boat with his parents. He had a fishing pole and he was tossing it off the dock there. So I went over to him because I was going to take a break. And I says, talking to him and saying hi to his folks. I says, do you mind if I give him a bait to catch some smallmouth? And they were like, really? Smallmouth? I go, oh yeah. So I get his line and I tie on a Whopper Plopper Popper. And I told him, I says, cast it right over there by those bushes. It was just on the other side of the ramp. I go, just toss it over there. I go and do a steady retrieve in. So he tossed it once, and I'm teaching him. Like I says, okay, faster, stop. I go, that's the speed. Now do it again at that speed. Second cast, he made a really good cast right where I thought there was some fish. And within a second, a smallmouth jumped up and hit it. And he reeled it in. And his parents go, how did you do that? I go, it's all about presentation, about, the baits that I make. And so, had a great time. Kid had a great day. And that's a tiny little bait. We use it on ultralight or a light rod, and with very light line, fluorocarbon. I use fluorocarbon. I don't like monofilament. So, but this is really the way to do it. And that's a Whopper Plopper Popper. So let's talk about a popper. Poppers are a hard bait with an open mouth. Big open mouth. Okay? And when you toss this out there, you're just going to tug, and you're going to splash, 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 splash. That's what you're doing. Splashing it, splashing it, splashing it. And you can let it sit, let it float, splash, splash, sit. Splash, splash, sit. And try to vary it, 1, 2, 3 splashes, and let it sit. And a popper, this is hard to see because it's green, but, I got green screen on the video here. Popper is a great bait for anything that hits surface. And they come in all different sizes. The bigger the bait, the bigger the fish. Now, I will tell you this. What we've covered so far, the Whopper Plopper, the wake bait, the Whopper Plopper Popper, and then a popper. These are all beginner baits. These are easy baits to have anybody catch a fish, and to catch a lot of them. And you're thinking, Mike, why would I go with anything else? Because there are a few more options for topwater fishing. And you're thinking, well, how many baits can there be? But there's a lot of them. And again, you want shallow water over cover, or as close to the shoreline as you can for those smallies. Smallies, they don't necessarily care for cover. They like it, but they don't have to have it. They could be on a hard-packed bottom, and you don't even see them. Because of that yellowish green, sort of blends right into the water. So a lot of people, they don't see what's by their feet. But this is, a popper is an easy bait to just tug, sit. Tug, sit. And just bring it into you. This is a great bait. Again, topwater baits. Now, all right. I'm going to show you my 7.5 inch wake bait, and a 7.5 inch wake bait. I put, these are my sharpest hooks that I put on here. So I put hook keepers on it. So these are the sharpest hooks money can buy. And so on these hooks are very expensive, by the way. I spend about $3 a hook on these. But this particular bait is jointed, double jointed, 7.5 inches. I have them painted several different ways. This one's more of a rainbow trout sort of, coloring. And it's got that big lip that's facing down. This thing right here, you control very slowly. And, nice thing about this bait, you're limiting your catches to 1 pound on up on fish. So I've actually had smaller fish hit this, but most of the time it's a big fish. But with a big bait like this, because this weighs about 2 ounces, you can't throw this on most rods. You need a heavy rod. You know, a rod with that has a heavier action and thicker line. You really do. You can't throw this on a trout rod. You just can't. You're going to have to, and then you wonder why bass fishermen have lots of rods, is because, you know, we have little baits, we have medium baits, we have heavy baits, we have frogs, which we'll talk about. But this next bait is an advanced bait. This next bait is what we call a spook, or a walking bait. This one's had so many fish on it. And a walking bait, it doesn't have feet. I know this is radio, and I'm also recording this. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the video of this. A walking bait is an advanced bait. You're going to throw this out there, and they cast forever. So these things cast a mile. They have a weight transfer system within the hard bait, and it causes it to just travel. And then what you do is you're going to tug. What ends up happening when you're tugging the tip, flicking the tip of your rod, is that the bait shoots back and forth on top of the water. Back and forth as you tug. Takes a little bit of practice, but when you get it, walking baits, you know, and I've got huge ones. This is a 180, but this is not a huge one. I've got really big ones. And you're going to walk it on top of the water, and it's just boom, 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 back and forth. Then it's creating a splashing action too, and it's going back and forth. And then, a fish sees that and just is what we call a walking bait or a spook. These things right here, they're killer. These things are so cool. And, you know, I think I've got, I've got a much bigger one here. I have a lot of walking baits. And walking baits are just, here's a much bigger one. So compare that to that. And again, heavier baits require heavier gear. So please do not try to throw a big bait with a rod that cannot handle it. You'll just lose your bait, although you'll have to go retrieve it, because these float. As long as you can see it, you can get it. Fantastic baits. A walking bait or a spook is one of the more advanced baits, and it's one that experienced fishermen use all the time. Now, I love wake baits too. I like Whopper Ploppers. I like my Whopper Plopper Popper. I like all these. But these baits right here, you really can't go wrong. And I'm telling you, this month and next month at Lake of the Woods is the best time to catch bass. Now, these are all easy baits to hook a fish, because they have treble hooks on them, and they're, good hook is really, really, really sharp. And when they bite, when they go up at it, they get hooked. But at Lake of the Woods and other lakes, Dog Lake is another really good lake for this type of fishing. It's called lily pad fishing. Lily pad fishing is a type of fishing that you're going to throw what we call a soft body. a soft body frog or creature on top of the lily pads. They have an upturned double hook that's upturned and just hugging the body of that soft body. When the fish bites on it, it crushes the body and then hooks themselves. Now, soft bodies, they come in lots of different designs. They can come looking like rats. One of my favorites, which is fun to toss it towards swimmers. Spiders, big spiders. Spiders are so cool, by the way. Don't last very long, but they're fun to walk on top of the water. And then we got these things, they don't look like frogs, but they're called frogs. This is what we call a walking frog. See the front of it? And then we have a popping frog, which has that big cupped mouth on it. So there's lots of different soft bodies. Now, the reason they don't snag is because, one, they float, and the hooks are upturned, and in these are called toad thumpers. And toad thumper, what they do is they mold the hook into the tip of the hook into the body. There's really no way for that to catch. So what you end up doing is you throw this over the lily pads, and it's just going to pop right down on top of the lily pad. Don't be surprised, okay, if you get a hit right when it lands, because that happens a lot. We call it, on the drop. Just when it drops, boom, you get a hit. And then a walking frog is very much like the spook. You're going to walk it, and it's going to dart back and forth. A popping frog does exactly that. It's going to pop, 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 and you're going to tug it a lot. You're basically working them similarly, except they have two different actions to them for presentation. Now, this is the hardest form of fishing, but this is the most entertaining form of fishing. So I want you guys to just go out there and have a great time. We're at the end of the show. I will tell you, if you get a bite on a frog, a soft body, count 1001 and then set the hook. Do that, and you'll land your fish. Take care, everybody. Tight lines to you, and we'll see you, hopefully, out on the water.
That was Terrible at Fishing, the radio show, with fishing expert Michael Raffino. Check out Terrible at Fishing on YouTube, and tune in next week for the next episode and more great fishing tips. Terrible at Fishing, Fridays at 7 p.m. on Gold Country Radio.